And hello.
I love this because it's not like we're live, and we're recording. I love this stuff.
Yeah, but we are live like at this moment.
Yes,
So if we
we
have any
are.
mess ups or anything,
No
um,
mess ups here.
that's us. That's us.
Sure.
Oh. So, first of all, I want to apologize for the last couple recordings. I kept messing up Sylvia's name. I kept calling her Lily. Lily is her actual name, not the character. The character is Sylvia, the lawyer. She's an
Okay, so the
attorney.
friend, right?
Yes, but
Okay.
I keep calling her Lily because that's her real actual name. So I
Oh,
must have screwed up somewhere, but I'm just kind of throwing
she
that out
actually
there.
looks like a Lily, so
Yeah,
meaning I don't know for some reason now she's gonna be Lily to me. No, but it's
yeah,
Sylvia, right?
it's
And I'm
Sylvia.
so bad with names.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, I
yeah.
try to get them and I write little things down, but I must have just picked up her actual name and just ran with it. And no one corrected me. And I just sort of saw that myself the other day and I was like, oops, I better apologize. So here we are on episode 4, See No Evil. What
Mm-hmm.
is that? What does that mean? Oh my
Right?
gosh, right?
Blind to it, right? Blind to the evil.
Yeah. So
See no evil.
here's our game players here. Here's our main players. We have Franklin, we have Jonathan, we have Grace, we have Henry, we have Sylvia, and we have Fernando. And just by looking at these and watching the episodes so far, and of course, everybody's watched this one, we start seeing a guilt or innocence in each of these players. To me, I can see both. I can see guilt and innocence, and keeps changing for me. What about you?
Oh yeah, that is one of the reasons why I'm enjoying this so much because I can make a case for each one why they
Mm-hmm.
did it or that they were the ones who done it and why they did not do it or why they're innocent. And
Mm-hmm.
I know there's going to be a twist somewhere. Or there are
Mm-hmm.
already twists everywhere. Yeah.
Yes. So
So,
yeah,
yeah.
everyone has a motive here, in including Henry because he's really worried about his parents breaking up. We have Sylvia, who's the friend who they're not filming her as much. That's why she's suspect to me because they're not really diving into her very much. Just like Fernando, he's the jealous husband, obviously, and then we have the husband who, of course, did he had an affair and he was with Elena, and then we have the wife, that's the jealous wife, possibly, that her husband had an affair, and then we have the controlling father. And so I can see any one of these players being the one that committed the crime, right? That's what I think, anyway.
Yeah, and also they may be working together, some of them, on
Yes,
different levels.
that's
Yep.
true. That's very true. I did have little thoughts on that about one or two of them working together because of the closeness of these characters. So I guess we'll just kind of see what happens through the episode. So let me go to the opening. It's Grace is well, first, before this, I'm sorry. Grace is walking. We see her walking, right? On the night of the benefit, past the
Yes.
studio, and she's in her dress and everything, and but she's telling this to Haley in Haley Fitzgerald's office, and it's like she's like, perhaps I could suggest that you killed her. And Grace like, are you making a joke? And she's like, I don't joke. But basically, she's like, why would you be innocent? You were walking on the night of the murder past this her studio. I mean, what makes you innocent? Basically, they're just having this kind of
Yeah.
debate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what were your feelings there? Like, did you think Grace seemed guilty?
Now, she for a psychologist or psychiatrist, she is really not holding it nicely together.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is just her. I mean, she and anybody can be shocked in all of this, but even her husband, who is in prison for, well, not anymore, but in general, well, it comes up later. But he seems to be holding it all nicely, kind of together, and
Yeah, he has more
and
composure. Grace is like
yes,
all
yes,
over
and
the
she is
board.
just, oh my goodness, like if I were just looking at her without knowing anything else about her, she looks so guilty.
Mm-hmm.
She looks so guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, just looking at her and
Yeah.
her behavior.
And so Haley basically says, the police have plenty, of your because she says she was grounding herself. She walks to ground herself. So Haley's like, well, the police have plenty of photos of you grounding yourself. So you're no longer on the radar
Yeah.
of a suspect. But, rich entitled people conceal the ugly truths to protect the ones they love and everything like that. And so then she just springs up, tell me more about Elena's husband. And Grace, like, doesn't say anything. And she's like, why are you testing me? She's always defensive all the time. The cops, her own lawyer, her dad,
Yes.
everybody. She's like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you testing? Are you testing me? And she's like, yeah, before I put you on the stand. And Grace is like, no. Like, no, nope, nope, nope. I am not. I'm not going. That's like no.
Hmm.
And
That's very, very strange because for her profession, she's used to choosing her words really, really carefully, and uh, she's just completely saying no to it. And there's no, what do you call it? I guess no media there, so
mm-hmm.
it's not like she's gonna be out there. It's just gonna be private, whoever is at that moment
Yeah.
present over there, and
Mm-hmm.
she refuses. It's like as if she knows something about herself that um, not even the stuff she wants to hide, but she's not sure of herself, how
Well,
she can compose herself.
but I have other thoughts. What if she's protecting someone and she doesn't want to go on the stand? It's not necessarily that she did it, but what if she's protecting someone she knows? What if it's Jonathan himself or her father or anyone? Like she
Mm-hmm.
doesn't want to go on the stand because they could ask her something that will lead the investigation a different direction, and maybe she is afraid. Well, she is a psychiatrist, but in court they can get real tricky with the words, and maybe she doesn't want to fall into that trap, of admitting or knowing of somebody else
Yes.
doing it. That those are my thoughts, but she just seems so guilty by just saying no right away. Like, no, that's it. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask me again. So after that, Grace goes to see her father, and it's like, he's like, did you see Haley? And I don't like her. And he's basically, what difference does that
Yeah.
make? Like, we don't pay her. You don't pay her to
Yes.
like her. And
It's like you pay like the mechanic. You
yeah.
don't have to like your mechanic.
And then she's just like, and I would just love some unconditional support from my father. That
Mm.
would be nice. And from my loving father, and they kind of look at each other, and then all of a sudden, here we go. Here's a photo of Jonathan and Haley in the prison talking, and we we're we know that, well, we're assuming that Franklin paid for this. He's paying for all the
Mm-hmm.
bills, so
Yes.
she's there to talk to him about everything. So I this was kind of a strange conversation. She's like, it's a $10 million bond, but Franklin put up the 2 million. He's like, thank you for doing this, and she's like, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for Franklin. And don't you have like family? And he's like, "No, I'm estranged from my family." And go ahead and talk about this just a little bit. I'm going to. My dog wants to go outside really
Oh
quick.
yeah. Yeah, so that was very strange. Again, because she mentions that, oh, estranged from your family, kind of like from everybody else. And yeah, I was wondering about what happened, but he made it sound so, I would say, innocent, that after he left for college, the family that he had contact, or his entire family, it looks like, did not agree to his decision, which is very, again, strange, because this is not a bad decision that he made going into the field he did. This is a very, um, I'm assuming, profitable profession.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't see his answer to that they don't talk because of after he left for college. That's kind of strange, because why would they not? What kind
Mm-hmm.
of profession is, what is it about this profession that they didn't like about?
Well, I'm wondering if he had problems with his family. Obviously, he did because he's estranged
Yeah.
from them, and but he just seems to have problems all over the place, right? With his coworkers,
Yes.
with his lover, with his wife. They just these things are just popping up all over the
Yes.
place, and she asked, "How did you get that bruise?" And he says, "Oh, one of my friends here." And she's like, "You bit him too," and basically she say, "Don't bite anyone else. Don't bite anyone
Yes.
again." Like, you know, and
He, yeah.
I thought that was
He,
kind of cute because he was like, "Yeah, one of my friends, my new friends here,
yeah,
that
here.
I
And
made."
it's strange because he keeps, oh, but he's so good at it.
Mm-hmm.
He said that it was during all the pileup. Obviously, he was on the ground. There was no pileup. There's just, I think, one person on top of
Yeah,
him,
just the one
the guy
guy.
who he
Yeah.
bit. So it's not like he was out there. That scene from Game of Thrones when you had all those bodies on you. Oh, there was a sand. I bit somebody.
Right.
No, he did that because it was, he made it sound like, oh, there was a pileup and I bit somebody. No, 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 no. The guy was covering your face and you were protecting yourself. And why not? If he's trying to do something to you,
Mm-hmm.
you fight any way you can. You fight back any way you can, and that's, he
Well,
just made
and
it sound like, oh, it was just a pileup. I
yeah,
bit
and it was
him. Yeah.
interesting because you don't see Jonathan as being a violent man, but we talked about this last week
Oh
that
yeah,
all of a
yeah.
sudden he can defend himself and he's biting and he's fighting back and he was very aggressive when the guy touched his shoulder. So that's kind of a little nod to um, Jonathan is not as sweet and compassionate and lovely as everyone thinks he is, right?
Well, that part of it, I mean, he may be sweet. He may look sweet to some people.
Mm-hmm.
He may look compassionate, but we don't know what he thinks at that moment. But
Right.
there's so many more things
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
him. He may be sweet, but then if you touch him the wrong way, he's gonna, knock you out.
Right.
Or he may be compassionate, but he won't take any other, things from anybody else. But so far, the picture is not looking that great.
Yes. So here's the interesting part. Haley asked, "Are there any more Elenas out there?" And she's like, "I will find out. So you might as well just, fess up right now." And he hesitates for a really long time to me. And then he's like, one off years ago. I lost a patient. And Haley's like, "Oh, when you were distraught, of course." And then she says the sad the sad, you know. And he's like, "Are you being funny?" And she's like, "I'm not funny."
Yeah.
So basically, it's like, you know, she says, "Are you sure there weren't any others?" And he's like, "No, just the one, just Elena." And then she again says, "And the one when you were being distraught." So
Yeah. So she brings it up
he kind of like
again.
says just the one, but she has to remind him, "Well, you just told me there were two, so there's
Yeah.
just one more." And then she says, I'll need his name." But here's an interesting photo. It's both of their hands are on the table, and they got their hands clasped together, hers and his, across the table. I thought this was an interesting thing because here's a pair of hands again. So many times we see
Right.
hands all the time, and I thought this was interesting because we did mention that and before, and I was like, there's another set of hands again. So after this, Grace goes to meet the public defender, and basically, she asks, "Do you think that Jonathan is innocent?" And he's like, "Yes, my instinct says he is innocent, even though he's a dick. But yes, he's innocent." And Grace gets a couple of flashbacks of the benefit and everything of Jonathan and Elena. But I don't know why is she trying to justify her
Hmm.
own feelings by asking all these different people their
Um,
opinion?
yeah, I think before, because later on in the next scene, because that's when she asks, she keeps trying to validate stuff, I think,
Yes.
as if she doesn't, like you said, as if she doesn't trust her own, either, like you said, instincts
Mm-hmm.
or her feelings, because there's a difference between how you feel versus what your gut tells you. Kind of like there's
Yes.
feelings maybe overwhelming and kind of um, blocking what your instinct is telling you. So it's like she can't trust herself right now. And that's why I thought I wasn't sure why she's even bothering with this guy. But she wanted his opinion, especially after I'm assuming he said that's he's good. I forgot what he said, that he is good at reading people or whatever word he used to kind of describe that.
Yeah, sorry, I had
Yeah.
it. Dogs again. Always the
Oh,
dogs.
oh, my dog is right here. Frankie's snoring, so just FYI, I'll try to mute, but Frankie will still do his thing and he
Yes.
will snore loud.
Yeah, so I think she is trying to validate and justify her feelings about. So she's asking everyone. So the next thing is that uh, Grace goes to see her father, and they're at the museum. He always seems to be sitting there staring at the same painting, which I
Yeah,
would like to know what that painting is because they
exactly.
haven't really showed exactly which one he's staring at all the time, right?
Mhm.
I'm
It's
not
something
sure.
about there was like a landscape. I was trying to remember if there's anything about it that I kind of should know from looking at, art classes and stuff, but I can't recall any of it. I'm
Mm,
sure it has to be, because why would they, why is he there all the time? Why, what's the meaning behind it? Or maybe
mm-hmm.
the title or the artist or the
Right.
history behind it. Very, very curious about that.
Yeah, me too. So basically, she's telling, she's says, Haley wants the bail money to get him out, and Franklin's like, where are you planning to live together? No, no, no. Henry and I are going to stay with you. He's going to stay at the apartment. So that's kind of like a really super short scene. Then all of a sudden, here we are in prison. Um, Franklin goes to see Jonathan. Jonathan tries to say, thank you for the bail, and I don't expect you to, and basically Franklin's like, I don't want to hear anything. Like, I don't, I don't want to. I'm doing this, for my daughter. I think you killed that woman, and basically he threatens him. If you run or further try to harm my daughter, my grandson, then I'll track you down and kill you myself. And Jonathan, oh my gosh, hold on.
Yes.
Sorry. Hold
That's
on.
okay. That's okay. Yeah, that was that showed what Franklin can do. Kind of warning what he can do, especially the way he's a. I love this actor. He is doing such a great um, job. I guess portraying Franklin,
Oh,
showing the
Donald
power.
Sutherland, right? He's
Um,
great.
yes, yes.
He's awesome.
Um, really. And yeah, that's not an empty threat, I bet, on his part.
Yeah, and and Jonathan's like, I'm gonna try to I'll make it right for all of you, all of you. But basically, he's you know,
I think it's just a show. He's just saying, I'm not saying he doesn't mean it, but he's so good at playing and just saying things that he thinks people want to hear.
mm-hmm. I think so too. I think he has that gift, that talent to appease everyone. But I think Franklin knows that. So, um, I just, but when Franklin's like, I'm done here, like, he didn't even want to hear anything from Jonathan, like, zero. He was just like, I'm here on behalf of my daughter. You better not run. You better not do anything. I'm putting up this money, $2 million. And basically, I'm threatening you. You better not do anything, or I will hunt you down. So here is a picture of Franklin talking to Jonathan, and he's just like stern, and he is like he's not gonna have it. He's just not gonna have it. No nonsense from him.
Later
Period.
on, we find out why.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then here's the courthouse scene, and it was really brief, but it's basically he stops the press. I mean, all the media, all these people are out, and he's just like, all I want to say is I can't wait to clear my name, and proving that I'm innocent. And at first, Haley's like, and even Grace is kind of like, what's going on. If you watch it, she kind of nods her head like it's okay, but they were still both kind of concerned. What is Jonathan gonna say? But basically, that was a really, really quick scene. Now
Yeah, and
here's
he's a great player with that, so he can just say exactly the words
yeah,
that people want to hear.
yeah.
Yeah, to get his point across.
So here now we're at school, and Henry is running up into the class, and he bumps into Miguel, and then he turns around and he says, sorry, and he puts out his hand to shake his hand, but Miguel's just staring at him, and that's something else that bothers me. What does Miguel know? Does Miguel know things that we don't know? Did he see something that we didn't see? Did he follow his mom?
Hmm.
Do we know what's going
Uh,
on with Miguel? Does he
I
know
think that
something?
children are really like underestimated. I guess that may be a good word for it. They they see and hear more than people
Mm-hmm.
realize.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, um, we may think that kids, oh, what do they know, or they're too young, or they're too busy. They, the children can really surprise us
Yes,
in general.
they can, and I just wonder because we're not really hearing Miguel say very much. Really, he's very silent, and he's observing a lot. And then the next picture is Henry is in the principal's office. And basically, the principal's like, "What did you say to Miguel?" And he says, "I just said hi, and just sorry." And then he's like, "Sorry for what?" And he goes, "Well, I bumped into him, and so I apologize." The principal's, to me, is like, he told Grace that the school is going to protect him, just Grace stay away from the school. Now he's basically accusing him, like, what did you do to Miguel? And is it that something else happened more? That, something more happened that they didn't show
Yeah,
us? Or is he just,
yeah.
what's going on here? I mean, he's traumatizing. Henry has enough trauma already. But then
Hmm.
the principal, who he felt was a safe place, is
Yeah.
no longer safe
For
anymore.
both boys, for
Mm-hmm.
both boys, they are both victims in a way. Kind of,
Mm-hmm.
one lost the mother and one is about to lose the father,
Right.
and not even sure if the father did it. It's He's still, isn't supposed to be, innocent, and until proven guilty here,
Mm-hmm.
at least in theory. And I wonder what
Exactly.
happened to get him to the office. Like, who told him? Did somebody say something? Did Miguel
Right.
do something to get Henry into the office? What
Mm-hmm.
happened there?
Well, and that's what I kind of want to know because usually the media always is the first jury, right? The media is always the first jury. They
Yes.
they will say if somebody's guilty or innocent before they even go to trial. So we know Henry is watching the news on his phone. We know that kids are talking. Everybody, the adults are talking. Everybody's talking. It's a high profile case. So I'm just kind of, wondering if there was something more here, or are they just being a little judgmental? They're being a little prejudiced. Are they, are they afraid of, the reputation of the school? We don't know yet why everyone's fleeing. The abandoning this poor boy, and he's the one, that his father's in prison and possibly for murder, and I mean he's just as much a victim as Miguel. So that's how I look at it.
Yes, exactly.
um you know and then we see Grace thanking her dad, for bailing Jonathan out, and it's like you never liked him,
Mm-hmm.
and what, you know what made you think that he was the perfect guy for you? Franklin's saying this to her. What, you had this
Mm-hmm.
idea of a perfect life, and so Jonathan knew that and kind of like molded his life to be
Mm-hmm.
whatever it was you wanted. And I thought that was interesting that he knows Jonathan can mold his personality to fit something. He's a puzzle piece that can fit anywhere. It doesn't matter what situation, where,
Yes.
who's looking. He can make it all look really wonderful. But when he was in that fight with that other prisoner, all of a sudden this other side came out. So it's kind of interesting that Franklin knows this about him. I wasn't. Maybe Franklin knows more than we do, and he's just basically saying this at this point. But then all of a sudden, Grace blurts out, "Oh, they want to kick Henry out of school. They want to homeschool him until this whole thing's over." So I found that was like I could just see what's going on in Franklin's head at this moment. But then all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, they're interrupted by the police, and so she goes down there, and they're like, sorry to be a nuisance, and she's like, again, and it's our personal business, the whole cop thing, and it's like, oh, you've allowed Jonathan back in your house, and but the question comes up, how well did you know Elena? And she's just staring at them. To me, she looks very suspicious. She doesn't want to talk to them, but her face doesn't look concerned. It looks more like, what lie am I going to tell? That's the look to me she had on her face. Um, they say, well, she called you so many times. And she's like, well, I never answered. I mean, I thought I was a telemarketer. And they were like, did you know she was an artist? You never posed for her? And she's like, what? And they said, yeah, we found something interesting in the basement. They pull out the cell phone, and here is a picture of the portrait. They took a picture on the cell phone. And Grace is just like, I don't know. She
Yeah.
looks guilty to me. Like, but maybe she just is
To
surprised.
to me, it looks like she is shocked because she's discovering something at that moment that she has forgotten. It's like, oh yeah, I
Mm,
remember that, but I
good point.
forgot, and then she's shocked, kind of seeing it for the first time again.
Okay.
Very, very odd reaction to it. But also, I want to go back just for a moment.
Okay.
When Gracie thanks her father for the bail money, she gives him a hug. Oh my goodness, Frank is making all kinds of stuff. I think he's
Okay.
waking up right now. For just Yeah, I think he's done coughing here. So she actually hugs her father.
Yeah.
I think this might be the scene, and I don't know if you got to look at his face. Like he was kind of surprised that she's showing him that affection. Um, Very, very strange look on his face when she kind
Okay.
of gives him a
I
hug.
I didn't notice
Yeah.
that, but yeah, and oh, and family, just so you know, LMR and I do not really discuss this show before we come on to record.
No.
So we don't pre-talk ahead
Nope.
of time. We just do it, and this is kind of freelance. We have a little bit of
Yep.
notes, but I did put pictures this time just to make it
Mm-hmm.
look a little
Yep.
more fancier than than normal.
Nice, nice. Fancy's good sometimes,
Yeah,
which is
just
now.
because we're I'm just learning how to use more stuff here. So anyway, this next scene is Grace and Jonathan walking, and she's like, "Did you know about this portrait?" And he's like, "No. What was it? Like a painted portrait?" And she's like, "Yeah." And Jonathan immediately says, "Oh, she is so obsessive." And I thought that was kind of
Hmm.
interesting, um, because he told her she was obsessed with him and then was becoming obsessed with his family. So he's using these words again, and I find that I believe Grace here in this scene that she really didn't know about this portrait. She didn't
Hmm.
know about it. She seems surprised, and she doesn't seem like she's trying to convince Jonathan of anything. She's like, I really didn't know about it. Did you? And he's like, no, I didn't know. I don't know about it. But we don't know if Jonathan does know about it. Maybe he commissioned her to paint a portrait of his wife. We have no
True,
idea.
he might be messing with her.
Yeah.
Maybe for him, he's such a, again, great choice of actor for this one too, in his role.
Mhm.
But after seeing kind of what is it like? I guess his life from at least couple perspectives from
Yes.
different people's views. I don't trust that man at all.
No, I don't trust
At
him
all. Nothing,
anymore. Mm-mm.
nothing that comes out of his mouth. Nothing.
Right.
It looks like
I don't either.
he may be or may not be, even if there is anything good about him, because people are just people sometimes. People are maybe like that, and there are a lot of people, or
Mhm.
many people like that here in the world, and we just live with them.
Yes.
And they are who they are.
Yes.
But for this man, even if there's good things that he does, nothing, literally nothing that comes out of his mouth,
Well,
I would ever believe.
and this is where I get suspicious too, because Grace is basically saying, I'm just playing the role of the wife. We are not in this together, because he's like, we're in this together,
Yes.
and she's like, no. Um, basically, j- you may not be the murderer, but you are not my husband. And it's like, this is too big for us to undo, which the undoing, Jonathan, this is
Perfect.
too big for us to undo. Why? Because she's got money, Franklin's got money. Where did he come from? And what? But he's a doctor, so, well, obviously not anymore. He got fired, but before, he was making his way in the world. I mean, he wasn't, you know uh working part-time jobs, nighttime jobs. He had a profession. So I'm just, he goes to hug her, and she's very uncomfortable, and he says, it's me, it's me. And she's like, Stop it,
Right.
stop it,
That's so weird of him to
no."
say that. It's me. It's just some weird stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, did he hypnotize her?
Exactly that.
Did she
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
memory loss, and he just stepped into her life, and he's like, it's me?
Mm-hmm.
But she's like, stop it, stop it, no, no, just get away from me, like.
Yeah.
And I found that intriguing, because I'm like, did Jonathan study her at one time? Did she have problems before, when they met, and that's how he molded himself to be the perfect person for Grace, and he knows her like that, so he's gonna change and be whatever it is she wants him to be. That's what how I took it. That's how I took it. What
Mm-hmm.
did you think the same thing? I mean, was that going through your mind?
Um. Yeah. Similar stuff, and also to your point. For him, in order to be, he's a manipulator.
Yes.
From what we see, he's very good at it. She is the psychologist, and she may kind of, I guess, dissect people's minds and all that to get into who they are. But I think he knows it too. He is
Mm-hmm.
very good at reading, because in order to fit in and be flexible and accommodate everybody, you have to read We have
Mm-hmm.
to be good at reading people. But for example, that the other attorney, the one that Grace was meeting at the diner,
The
he's
public
good at
defender, yeah, he's
I'm sorry, yes, the public defender. He's good at reading people too. However, he doesn't have that, from what we see, he doesn't have that um, personality thing that Jonathan has.
yeah, but you made a
Yeah,
good point. The public defender was I can read people. He's a dick, but he is
yeah,
innocent. Then we have Franklin who can read everybody. He knows
mm-hmm.
stuff. Then we have the kids who they're watching and they're listening and
Yes, oh yes,
they know what's going on. It's like almost everyone and including Haley. Everyone can read everyone except for Grace. Is Grace the only one that is like in a different
blind to
world?
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's asking all these people, "What is your opinion? What's going on?"
yeah.
Even the
And there's
creep.
that whole thing. See no, is it called a see no evil or
Our
the?
episode is "See No Evil." Yes,
Yeah, so she seems to be blind.
yes, she's not seeing
Yeah,
any.
the only one who's kind of blind,
Yeah,
truly.
yeah, and I think that's kind of that's an interesting take here. So the next scene we see is Franklin and Sylvia at the school, and she's asking how is she really doing, and he's like, oh, she's stoic, but Grace is Grace. I don't know if I've ever really known her. What does that mean coming from her father that
Hmm.
they're so close?
Yeah.
What does that mean? I don't think I've ever
Huh.
really known her. Um,
Hmm.
I find that a little bit interesting. But then, of course, Sylvia is like offering up if there's anything I can do,
Hmm.
anything, anything.
The whole thing about I don't think I've ever known her. That gives me that vibe of that hug when Grace hugged him.
Mm-hmm.
His face was as if a stranger just approached him and hugged him, like,
Okay.
hey, and he's like, oh, okay, hello, I'm getting a hug from you.
Yeah.
It was a surprise, as if somebody is just being so familiar with him, just being,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give you a hug, and he was kind of like freaked out by it to me. It
So
looked like.
here's a thought I have about Sylvia. We don't see Sylvia too much in this program. But she pops up here and there, phone calls, telling the gossip, what have you. But she's offering up like how is Grace doing? I just feel like we see that she's busy. Her daughter is in ballet. She's running around. She's got a high profile job, but it's almost like Sylvia's just trying to find these bits and pieces of information. I
Mm-hmm.
feel that she's not as good of a friend as she's got everyone thinking that she is. I feel like she's digging for information. That's what it looks like to me. Not that, she's just all there with her every second. I mean, basically, is the only times that they've talked except for the benefit was over information about Jonathan hiring her, asking Franklin how is she, calling her to tell her the gossip to see what she knows or what she thinks. I mean,
Yes.
to me, Sylvia is really a big suspect on my suspect list. So Franklin looks and says, "Oh, my date's here," and here we go. This is my
Yeah.
favorite part of the show.
Right.
Sorry, my little cursor is popping all over the place. Yeah, Franklin is talking to the principal, and he's just saying, yeah, we just want to keep everything kind of out of the media, like calm things down until things are we don't want to have Reardon and all the ugliness, like with each other. And Franklin gets this look on his face, and he says,
Mm-hmm.
"I'm a cocksucker." Not the gay belittlement of today, but the old
Yes.
fashioned, the more traditional kind. You speak of ugliness, you have not yet met ugliness. This principal looks like he's gonna crap his pants right now.
Exactly. I was going to say, yeah, it was not, it's like don't shoot the messenger because technically it's not just the principal's decision, it's the board. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
like the guy just said, okay, you're out.
Yeah.
It is all those people who sit on the board
Yes.
and he's delivering the message.
And
Um,
he has
yeah,
this most terrifying look on
yes.
his face, like the devil. And also, this is Franklin's second threat in one episode.
Mm-hmm.
This is his
All right,
second threat.
all right.
Yes. Basically, because he's like, I've given you this money, but if you want to know ugliness, you have yet to meet ugliness. And this threat just put the hair on my arms, just basically just stood up over
Yeah.
this whole scene. I loved it. I loved Donald Sutherland's evilness. I thought, oh my gosh, he's like so good. He's so good
Mm-hmm.
in this role. Really, really good. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
And for the threats to be scary and just chilling, nobody has to yell or scream.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's the calmness that should frighten people because when people
Absolutely.
yell on or just kind of rage, they're blowing off steam too. But for somebody who just kind of keeps it in, it's like that sleeping danger. You never know
Mm-hmm.
how they're gonna explode and if you're even gonna see it coming.
Exactly.
The quiet, the silence, and you don't have to be loud or in somebody's face to make the other person be afraid.
Yeah, that's that
Very, very
calm
afraid.
before the storm, right?
Yes,
Which is
exactly. The
scarier.
calculated, um, somebody who's focused.
Mm-hmm.
Not somebody who's angry and throwing fits and yelling here and there, and then by the
Mm-hmm.
time they get to whatever they need to do, they're already kind of over some parts because they yelled, they screamed,
Mm-hmm.
and they threatened. From Franklin, it's not a threat, it's a promise.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
It is. So then we're gonna move on to Grace here, and I have a picture of Elena. Basically, Grace, she's dreaming and she's having fitful sleep, and she's dreaming of Elena, painting, sleeping with Jonathan, the kiss that she gave her in the gym where she didn't have any clothes on. Um, she's just she's just all uh, these pictures are coming into her mind, and then all of a sudden, Elena's laying there saying, "Please," and the hammer just bounces off of her head,
Yes.
and so so I like I said, we don't know who's having all these dreams, or if she really can see these, or is she imagining these things. We're not sure, but then Grace decides she's going to go for a walk, and it's nighttime, and she's walking, she's grounding herself, and all of a sudden we see Fernando. Is he following her all over the place? Is he really doing that?
It looks like he is, and actually, right after Grace had that, would look like a dream that she was having.
Mm-hmm.
We see him walking out of the store, and kind of it's like a couple second scene, and it's not doing anything. At least for now, I don't see the point of it because he doesn't interact with anybody. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't say. We don't see him doing anything. We just see him walking out,
Mm-hmm.
making a turn left turn somewhere, and just walking. Then, like you said, we see him walking kind of behind her. She keeps looking around. She
Mm-hmm.
looks scared.
Mm-hmm.
The first at night, which later on turns into continued walking during the day.
Yeah,
So
here
I
we
think
go.
he is following her. But it's like she's walking at night, and then all of a sudden she's walking during the day.
It's
Like,
in the
what's going on
daytime.
with that?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she's standing there, and it starts to snow. I have a picture of her reaching her hands reaching out to grab a snowflake, and I thought, wow, did she really walk all night? And it's the daytime, and she sees
Exactly.
kids
Weird.
playing, and she's looking around, but she's getting kind of dizzy, kind of hazy a little bit, and she sees a teenager that reminds her of maybe herself. She's got red hair, curly hair, and she sees this teenager, and she faints, and she just falls on the ground, and all these teens surround her in the park. And I thought that was kind of interesting, but maybe Grace was having a panic attack, or maybe this teenager triggered something in her, and she just like passed out right there in the park.
Yeah.
So
She seems to be scared, not scared, but concerned with the snow, because I don't know if it's to me it doesn't look like she likes she's fascinated by it, by its beauty. It's like reminding her of something.
Yeah, kind of
So,
like those
yeah.
bubbles that we
Yes.
see in the opening sequence, right? The little bubbles, she puts out her hand, she
Yeah.
touches them. So this snow might be reminding her of something that she has put in the back of her mind that she has forgotten.
And so
So,
many images too, because snow, again, I'm probably getting too psychological with it, but
mm-hmm,
the snow first of all melts, it changes shape. It's water.
mm-hmm,
It melts different. It can be water, it can be frozen, so it changes shape. It depends on its shape depends on the temperature and all that. So for us it can be like she's covering something up, they're covering something up, like snow can cover things up, snow can make things pretty, but again it's ugly when it's melting, when it's covered by this dirt, when it can be nice and fresh and pretty, but then it gets dirty and nasty. um, so so many different images, and I really really hope that they will actually that it will mean something. If not, then I guess I had just had fun thinking about
I had fun
meanings
thinking
of that.
about yeah, the
Yeah,
opening
yeah,
sequence, like what is going
right.
on. There's something, has to be
Yeah.
some kind of a clue. And
Mm.
sorry everybody if I keep touching things on this program that you see little weird things. So anyway, here's the next picture. Oops, sorry. I don't know why it's got the little outline around it. Sorry, people. Yeah, they're in the hospital, and Franklin's there, the son's there, the son's asking, what happened and everything. She's like, oh, I don't know. I just, you know, fainted. I don't know. I got dizzy and I fainted. And we see Jonathan running to the rescue down the hall.
Mm-hmm.
He comes in. Franklin's giving him, like, if looks could kill looks. And he's trying to take what happened, and taking her vitals and checking her eyes and touch her nose and trying to be the,
Yeah.
the doctor, the good doctor. And
Oh, please, right?
Franklin is just watching all this. But the son,
Yeah.
he's like kind of happy that they're like a
Mm-hmm.
family unit again. He has that look like, oh, good, you love my mom and my mom loves you, and we'll probably be a family again. And maybe, but I'm Franklin's just observing him. He's just watching him, and I find that interesting as well. I
Yeah.
just it's just like he's trying to play a part. Jonathan is just trying to play a part.
Oh, that's exactly, I think, what he does to either knowingly or knowingly or unknowingly. Uh, because at this time, Grace is the patient, and normally it's the kids. I'm assuming he's the,
Mm-hmm.
is he the, for pediatrics
Yes.
department, I guess. So normally the kids are the patients, and the parent just kind of looks and, oh, like, oh my gosh, this person's gonna try to save my child. So
Mm-hmm.
now we have a parent who is the so-called patient, and air quotes, and we have a child looking at this doctor, which is, Henry looking at his father, Jonathan, like being a doctor to his wife, his
Mm-hmm.
Henry's mom. So kind of looking at all like, oh wow, he's being so caring. He's checking her vitals.
Mm-hmm.
He's showing compassion. Oh my goodness, it is difficult, no, seeing Jonathan, if in fact this is the picture, a correct picture that we're getting,
Mm-hmm.
that he is just playing all this. He likes the attention, he likes to be in the center, he likes to play God,
Mm-hmm.
and be treated like one. And this time he is playing with his loved ones.
Yes. and
Yeah,
and we have a close up here where he grabs Grace's hand. So here's another picture, a close up of hand holding or hands. There's always hands all the time in this show. So I just thought that was interesting. I grabbed this, and I keep clicking wrong pictures, but you guys will You'll understand. I'm new at clicking of the picture. So anyway, in this next scene here, we have Sylvia calling Grace. How are you doing? What's going on? And she's like, well, I'm just having anxiety, stress. And she's like, what for? You're like, why? Trying to make a joke. And she's like, let's get together. Let's, come over for, like drinks and food. And Grace like, okay, that sounds good. And again, this could be because they're friends, or could this be for information? Like, how are you doing? What are you doing? What's going on? To me, I'm not. I don't trust Sylvia anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, and
Yes.
that's just kind of me right now. Then we see that Henry's playing the violin, and Franklin kind of notices and kind of comes in, and they talk about the instrument a little bit. And he said, I wanted to play the violin because it was different than everybody else's, and we see the softer side of Franklin. He obviously loves his um, uh, grandfather, but then all of a sudden we just go spiraling over to Jonathan is knocking on Fernando's door. What is this? I mean,
Right.
uh,
Wow.
and
That was
then
bold.
he's like, let me in. And he's like, no, go away. But then he lets him in. Who lets the guy who murdered your wife come into your apartment? Who does that?
It
Like,
was very strange. First of all, that he wanted to go in there. He puts his foot over there, so he
mm-hmm.
kind of forces his way into that house,
Yes.
and completely doesn't give a he doesn't care what that man says,
Mm-hmm.
and there are children in the house, so
Mm-hmm.
it's a violation of some sort.
Well, but I found it kind of interesting that Fernando lets him in. I'm not going to let any person that murdered somebody into my home. Are you kidding me? Really? I would have called the cops. I would have been like, "What are you doing
Right,
here? I'm
right,
calling the
yeah,
cops. Get out of here." But Jonathan makes a beeline from Miguel and sits down,
yes,
touches his face. He's like, "Oh, he was my patient," and Miguel, this tear kind of comes to his face. It's like, and he's just staring at Jonathan weirdly, not like you're my doctor that saved my life, but he's crying, almost like I don't know, like he knows something. And Fernando's like, get away from him, get away from my son. And he's like, no, 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 I'm his doctor.
mm-hmm,
I care about him and all this. And no, Fernando's not having it. He's like, tells his son, let's go to the back room, put your headphones on and everything. But I just thought that was really interesting that he beeline to Miguel. Instead of talking
yeah,
to Fernando first, he talks to the boy. And I'm like, And why is Miguel crying? Is it because he misses his mom? Does he know the doctor? Does he know that those two were together? What does
mm-hmm,
Miguel know that we don't know? He knows something,
yeah,
I think. So here's a scene where um, Fernando's talking about the baby, and he's like, um, do you want to feed her? Uh, and he goes to hand the baby, and he says, "Yeah, Daddy's home." And I thought Jonathan's face was like, "What?" Like, okay. And he's like, "I tried to love her, but I couldn't. Maybe I will one day, but I can't." And he goes, you want to feed her?" And Jonathan agrees, and he looks at the baby. And during this time, Fernando asks, have you seen her yet? And he's like, yes. He's like, have you ever held her? And Jonathan reluctantly is like, yes. So these are
isn't that
so
curious?
these are more secrets that even Fernando didn't know. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh,
It's like Jonathan was pretending that the news of him being a father were news. That's nothing new to him. I
right.
don't know. To me, at least, it was as if when Grace told him that whenever they were speaking, that this was news to him. And no, it looks like he did know. He knew. Apparently, he must have known all this time
Right.
before
And
the
but he
the
held
death.
the baby. He's seen the
Yes.
baby. No one knew that. Not, we didn't know that. Grace didn't know that. Yeah, he acted like it was a big old surprise. But even Fernando was like, oh, okay, you did. And I was kind of curious. I wondered if Fernando was just asking, like, just that curious question, because you were having an affair with my wife. So I want to know everything. Even though we don't want to know, we want to know, right? We don't want to know, but we want to know. And, you know, uh, Jonathan tries to explain to him, look, I didn't kill your wife. I didn't do it. He's trying to convince him. And he's like, but I just, I want the person to be caught. I want them to be caught. But there was something off about Elena, and this pisses
Mm-hmm.
Fernando off too, because he's like, you're trying to drag her through the mud after all you've done. But he's like, no, I cared about her and everything, and but he does offer to take that baby. Isn't that kind of surprising? He goes, I'll take her. I'm like, really? Where are you taking her to? Grace? Franklin? What's
Right? It's not like he can do anything about it right now. He would have to wait until, the trial is over
Yeah.
to take her.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and plus he doesn't have money because Grace is not with him anymore. So I'm just wondering what Jonathan's plan is at this moment. He doesn't have any money. He's estranged from his family. He doesn't have any friends. Franklin hates him. Grace is like, no, we're not getting back together. Where? How is Jonathan supposed to take this child and support this child?
Right. Right.
So maybe there's more to the story. Maybe he is highly suspect, and Fernando is looking a little more innocent right now to me. Um, so it's like we're kind of plucking out people, but we're also saying we're also not believing Jonathan. Jonathan's looking guiltier and guiltier, like every single moment, right? Just on and on and on.
Yes. Yes.
So next, Jonathan is talking to Haley at the office, and she is like, what were you doing? That's witness tampering. And she was like,
Yeah.
you really thought you could convince him that you were innocent? And he just sort of stands there, and she's like, you did. You did. With your charm, you you cast a spell on everybody. You're capable of mesmerizing everyone you see. And she was just like, I got the answer. You can con anyone. And isn't this the whole theme so far, that
Yes.
he can sweet talk you or mesmerize
They
you
will
or
not see his evil, basically.
mm-hmm.
Well, yeah.
And she tells him, we need to go on TV. We need the jury to see what you see. We need to see the jury to see you the way you see you. And they're also, she's talking the there was a shrine of DNA to you, and a voluntary manslaughter is not bad. And he's like, yeah, if I were guilty, but I didn't do it.
Yep.
Now
He
that
will not
sounded
settle for.
convincing,
Yeah.
though. That sounded convincing to me. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't do it.
Yep.
He's not taking the plea deal. Most innocent people won't take the plea deal because that'll follow them for the rest of their lives. So he is a con man, but at the same time, is he innocent? Is he actually innocent? So that's, to me, that's he's so good. He's such a good actor that I keep going back and forth on his disposition, his guilt or not guilt. It's just wow, right? Just
Yeah, but also just because he's a player, and by saying player, I mean player of people,
mm-hmm,
doesn't mean that he did it. He might have done it, he could have done it,
mm-hmm.
but again, being the person he is, doesn't mean that he did it. But it's so difficult to decide if he actually did it or not, because he might as well have done it because he's good at hiding
Yeah,
it,
he's good at
whatever it
hiding
is. Yes.
and faking his personality, and he's accommodating his personality to whomever he's speaking to. So he's accommodating Fernando, the lawyer, Grace, Franklin, his son. He's giving, his son like all these hugs, and he's like, I love you. He's just really accommodating whomever he runs into. So here's Grace and Franklin playing chess, and this is where I found this whole conversation really interesting about um, why Franklin doesn't like Jonathan because he reminded him of himself. What did you? How did you feel about this whole conversation that they had?
Yeah, with him not liking Jonathan because
Mm-hmm.
he can see Jonathan, or he can see himself in Jonathan,
Mm-hmm.
or at least the part of him that he doesn't like, that
Mm-hmm.
he is not accepting, or he is still feeling guilty about. Because, like he says, Franklin says um, he was not, he was never happy. They were never happy together with his mother, with
Mm-hmm.
Grace's mother. He cheated on her constantly,
Mm-hmm.
and all the gifts and all that. They were just kind of like, what did he call it? Penance, or
Penance. Yeah, penance.
yes,
And he was just saying, I would reset, apologize, admit everything, give her jewelry which she probably never wore,
yes,
and Grace is crying. She's like, "No.
hmm,
I saw it. I remember, you loving her and being devoted and giving her gifts and all this stuff that she remembers her version."
yeah,
And he's
the
like,
faulty
"No."
memory. Yeah, yeah. Maybe do you think it's just because with her it can be both things. Either she remembers what only the parts she wants to remember,
Yes.
or she, like, maybe there were I mean, those were actual things. Like you said, yes, I was giving her this, I was giving her gifts, but it
Mhm.
was as an apology, or kind of for it, which he did over and over and over and over. So how good is an apology? And he knows that stuff, but um Grace maybe just chooses to, which is obviously something that we may do, all of us may do. We may choose to not think about the bad stuff like she does. She chooses
Mhm.
not to remember, maybe, or maybe she never saw it. Maybe they were good at hiding it
That's true, and she's
from
only
her.
remembering, yeah, the
Hmm.
good
Yes,
parts, which
exactly.
she was a child, so we don't know when her mother left or died or because they're not really talking about that. She did mention missing mom, but I believe it was when she was very young in the beginning sequence. I believe that Grace was that age when something happened to
Yeah.
her mother. That's how I feel
Mhm.
about the
And I
opening sequence.
wonder, and I wonder today. I noticed another part of that the opening sequence, and
Okay.
I actually quickly checked, and it's been there for the third one as well. The third episode,
Okay.
there was that girl. Maybe it's the same girl. It's just maybe different view or angle of her.
Okay.
But for a moment, I thought I saw some other girl there. Again, that may be just me
Mm,
enjoying the fact that I'm reading into it too much, but there's
okay.
so many different things. I wonder who, if there's anybody else in that, if there's a different, not just Grace as a child being shown there, if
Mm.
there's anybody else as a part of that.
Well, I'm gonna
Yeah.
rewatch that and see if I can. I'm gonna really
Mhm.
really watch that and see if I can see
It
something.
is really, really interesting looking at those clues. They
Yeah,
may be nothing, but it's fun looking at them and speculating.
exactly. Cause just like Lovecraft Country, there was so much of the
Yes.
whole season in the opening
Yeah.
sequence, and if
Right.
you weren't really paying attention, it's like, oh, that's a cool opening. But as the story went on, you started seeing
Yes.
these
It all had a
people and
meaning.
characters. Yeah, all these things in that opening sequence. So this is kind of playing to me like there's something hidden. There's something hidden
Yes.
in there. So, but Henry's watching these two. He's like in another room looking through the crack in the door and he's listening to his grandfather's mom talk. And he just sort of walks away like he's hurt. He
Mm-hmm.
he's like I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on with him. So anyway, here we go. Jonathan's on television. There's his lawyer. They're talking to him. It's kind of like a 60 minutes type show. And they're asking him all these questions like, why would we believe you? And he's like, yeah, I'm flawed. I'm unfaithful. Did you kill Elena? And he says, well, I think I was possibly the cause of her death, not by
Mm-hmm.
my hand. But this is what I found interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I made love to her, and maybe he saw it. And he said, somebody in a fit of jealous rage, he killed her shortly after I left. but she was killed shortly after I left. But then he says, I made love to her, and maybe he saw it. So he's using he as if he
Yes.
knows that it is a he. He's not
Yes.
saying it's a woman,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
means that it could
Mm-hmm.
be Franklin. But the blame is
Yes.
not, it's not Sylvia, and it's not Grace. If he
Mm-hmm.
saw this, which I
Yeah.
find a little interesting in a murder mystery.
Mm-hmm.
He,
Yeah, and the way he does it, he's so good at it, and obviously his lawyer is also good at it. The when he says, uh, because it's not about him cheating or being unfaithful, it's about murder. So he would not go out there, and it's not him being unfaithful to his wife. It's obviously not something nice to say in front
mm-hmm,
of everybody, but he uses that, like I forgot what it's called, but when you kind of like throw that one thing towards the people, like, oh yeah, I was unfaithful, right? And then normally to say something like that, it's like, whoa, my goodness, he just said that.
mm-hmm.
But then he says, but I'm not, I did not kill her.
Yeah. And then
Like, wow, okay.
we go to everybody's watching this on television. Franklin and Grace and
Yes.
Henry and Sylvia and her daughter, and they're all watching this program, and we're watching with them. And all of a sudden, there Jonathan starts talking again, because there's a couple times that he kind of looked at the lawyer, well, once, and she kind of nodded like he could say whatever. But I found this very last picture here that I have. It's of Jonathan's face, and the journalist, the host, asks, you know, asks some more questions, and he basically says, I loved her. No, I lost someone I
Lost
loved.
somebody.
I
Yeah.
lost someone I
Yeah.
loved. And Grace is just zeroing in on this. She's like, what? And I also noticed that Henry, watching, has really dark circles under his eyes. Did you notice that? He's like really stressed. Henry's got these dark
Oh yeah,
circles,
he's completely stressed out, poor kid.
and they're
Yeah.
watching this, and Grace is zeroing in on I lost someone I loved, and he's terrified, and he's hurt, and they ask, do you, well, if you didn't do it, do you know who did? And he says, I do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the end. That was the last thing he said, and I found that super interesting. That why didn't
Mm-hmm.
he share this information with anyone else, including Grace? Why did he not say, yeah, I think it's someone, your dad, I think it's Sylvia, your friend, I think it's the husband. I mean, he's trying to like convince everyone there's something off about Elena, and there's something weird, to where even Grace was asking, isn't there was something weird about her right off, because she's hearing that from Jonathan. So how come, why doesn't even Haley, doesn't why doesn't anyone know this opinion that he has, that he he thinks he knows? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Yeah, of who it could be.
Yes.
Do you think he's trying
Yeah.
to pin it on someone?
Oh, I'm pretty sure he's trying to pin it on the father of, not the father, not the father, the widower, I guess at this point.
Fernando,
Uh,
I you
yes.
don't think it's Franklin?
Um, I'm thinking Fernando, because he kind of went there and kind of tried to maybe get some kind of a reaction from him about the daughter,
Mm,
to kind of talk about the daughter. So I'm thinking just kind of why would he be going to that house?
true.
Because first of all, the child, the boy, Miguel, is it
Mm-hmm.
Miguel? I forgot his name.
Yeah, Miguel.
He cannot testify. I don't think they can make him testify. He's a child. I don't know if they're, if his testimony will do anything or extra to it.
Okay.
So convincing him won't do anything. I'm
Okay.
just wondering, he might have wanted to undermine the other the goodness, I keep forgetting Fernando's either faith in what happened or to cause doubt in his character. Like,
Okay.
oh, he doesn't even want the baby. He doesn't want the baby. He doesn't want this. There's some kind of game that Jonathan is playing.
Okay. And then that would make sense that because Fernando's not really that aggressive, is he? He's kind of a quiet guy.
Very much
He's
not.
kind of
I
sneaking
mean,
around a little bit, but
yeah.
he's not as
I mean, there was
aggressive.
a strange man putting a hand on his son's shoulder. Like, if this was Jonathan, he probably would have punched the other guy
Right. And
because he punched.
he
Yes,
did let him into the apartment. So I
yes,
think Jonathan thinks he can manipulate Fernando because obviously he let him in and he just went to town on his whole family, like touching his son, talking to him, holding the
yes.
baby, feeding the baby. He's just all
Mm-hmm.
over this little family
Yeah,
unit here. And so yeah,
exactly.
I think there's more, but Jonathan may not have been the killer, but I think he's trying to push the guilt off onto someone else. If he knows who the
Yeah.
killer is, he's trying to find out himself or he's trying to distract everyone and pin the
Yeah.
murderer on
Hmm.
it's on somebody else, I think.
And if they won't make a case, for example, didn't that lawyer say that she's there to create muck,
Yes.
basically to not to prevent people from being able to
Mhm.
convict Jonathan?
Right.
So they may not find the killer, but they won't be able to prove um, that Jonathan is the killer because there might be other options. They just can't prove that he is.
Yes, and if they brought Fernando to the stand, they're gonna go like, well, why did you let him in? If he killed your wife, why would you even let him in your apartment? So obviously you have some doubt. I think that's like part, even though Haley didn't know about it, but she's gonna bring up that muck. She's gonna bring up that muck and pin that on Fernando that he was the bad one. That
Hmm.
how could
Or at least, yeah, or at least unpin it from Jonathan.
yes, get it away from him. Get it away from him. So anyway, that is the end of our episode for this
Yeah,
week, and
number four. Yeah.
I know that we're behind because we're just like that. We're not like on top of it. But that was See No Evil episode 4. I'm
Yes,
so happy that you guys could join us, and thank you LMR for again
my
watching this
pleasure.
episode with me. It's so exciting.
Hmm. I love this show. It's really, really interesting and thrilling to see each time who could have done it or who's
Mm-hmm.
innocent and
Mm-hmm.
why and why not.
Yeah, I love murder, suspense, whodunits. It's one of my favorite things. I love true crime. So this kind of reminds me of some kind of true crime, but this one's very clean. I mean, gosh, there's Jonathan's DNA all over the place, but
Because of
Elena
the other reasons, probably, right?
Elena was well, he admitted he slept
Yes,
with her, but
yes, yes.
Elena's calling and following Grace all over the place, and then you have the suspicious father and the nervous son, and we've got all these people in this game, and I just can't wait to see who did it. I want to be surprised. I know I have all my theories, but I really actually want to be surprised. I want to be surprised. So,
Oh, me too. I
yeah.
don't want to be like, oh yeah, I knew that all along. Because what's the
Yeah.
fun in that?
Yeah, there's no fun in that. But anyway,
Yeah,
thank you everybody and we will see you next week and thank you
yeah.
LMR again for
Thank
doing
you,
the
Linda.
undoing with me. It's been so much fun. See y'all later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye everyone.